In a year of momentous happenings, the year 2000 was a time of new political regimes, efforts for peace, and an aircraft disaster. Millennium celebrations had ushered in the new year, but it wasn't long before it was back to business as usual. In Northern Ireland, Secretary Peter Mandelson suggested that there was good reason to be optimistic about the statement from the IRA that it would, to use its words, put its weapons beyond use. He called it a very significant development. The coroner leading the inquest into the Omagh bombing said the real IRA were entirely to blame for the blast. He dismissed claims by the real IRA that the police were to blame for the way they handled it. A memorial service was held for the 29 victims who died in the blast. The coroner said the 4 weeks of harrowing evidence had been an emotional experience he would never forget. In France, a tyre blowout could have been to blame for triggering a chain of events that led to the July Concorde plane crash outside Paris, which resulted in the loss of 114 lives. Air France Flight 4590 caught fire on takeoff from Charles de Gaulle Airport and shortly after crashed into the nearby Hotelissimo Le Relais Bleu hotel. Former KGB agent Vladimir Putin swept a victory in Russia's presidential election in March and swiftly began considering government changes and working on an economic program for his impoverished country. But questions were to remain about the direction Putin would take the world's largest country and the second biggest nuclear power. In August, the by now beleaguered President Vladimir Putin ordered a day of mourning to be held for the 118 sailors who died in the submarine Kursk as a shocked and angry nation tried to come to terms with the tragedy. For over 1 week, Russia had hoped and prayed that the sailors trapped at the bottom of the Barents Sea in the nuclear-powered submarine would be rescued alive. Russian authorities faced an unprecedented barrage of criticism at home and abroad for not disclosing full facts about the tragedy and being too slow in requesting foreign aid. The Russian press was also highly critical of the government's handling of the crisis and directed much of its fire at President Vladimir Putin, who had formerly enjoyed impressive approval ratings. Across the Atlantic, George W. Bush appeared to win the U.S. presidential election, but Democrat Al Gore retracted his concession after the result of the pivotal state of Florida narrowed to a few hundred votes. The astonishing twist of an extraordinary night came after Bush, the governor of Texas, seemed to have the 270 electoral college votes he needed to win the presidency. With his family gathered around him in an upstairs living room of the Texas governor's mansion, Bush told reporters he would not concede Florida. Ralph Nader, a third-party candidate celebrated in Washington, D.C., had been hoping for more of a victory on principle.
Trying to challenge the entrenched two-party system. This is really a lot what the campaign was about. The two parties rigged the statutory barriers to get on the ballot, for starters, and they command most of the money by raising corrupt soft money and corporate money and PAC money, all of which we rejected. All of which we rejected because we wanted to set an example of what is necessary for real reform of our corrupt campaign finance system.
On a generally miserable night, Mrs. Hillary Clinton gave Democrats something to cheer, making history by winning a seat to represent New York in the Senate. With her husband standing behind her on stage, Hillary Clinton expressed her gratitude to the people of New York.
Thank you for opening up your minds and your hearts, for seeing the possibility of what we could do together for our children and for our future here in this state and in our nation. I am profoundly grateful to all of you for giving me the chance to serve you.
In October, thousands of people in Belgrade celebrated the demise of former Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic. 2000, a year of politics, peace, and tragedy, was truly a year of momentous happenings.